Δεν πρέπει ποτέ να ξεχνάμε ότι αυτοί που έχουν τον πλούτο και κατά συνέπεια αυτοί που ελέγχουν τα πάντα στην γη ανήκουν στο 1% του παγκόσμιου πληθυσμού. Ότι δηλαδή το 99% των ανθρώπων ελέγχεται και υποκινείται από αυτό το 1%.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founder.
Πρέπει να μπει στην τροχιά μιας νέας εποχής και η χώρα μας πρέπει να σκεφτεί και να εξετάσει και τις όποιες υποχρεώσεις έχει ήδη αναλάβει.
The Millennium Development Goals have challenged us to develop a global governance.
Γι' αυτό τόνισε ότι θα πρέπει να είναι στόχος της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης η διαμόρφωση ενός συστήματος παγκόσμιας διακυβέρνησης με την ουσιαστική συμμετοχή αυτών των στρατηγικών εταίρων. Συζητήσαμε γενικότερα τα θέματα που αφορούν στις παγκόσμιες εξελίξεις. Η Ελλάδα πάντα είναι και παραμένει ισχυρός υποστηρικτής όχι μόνο του διεθνούς δικαίου αλλά και των θεσμών όπως είναι του ΟΗΕ, του ρόλου του ΟΗΕ στην παγκόσμια διακυβέρνηση. Και μονάχα ενωμένοι οι λαοί της γης με αλληλοβοήθεια και αλληλοσυμπαράσταση, με δημοκρατικές διαδικασίες παγκόσμιας διακυβέρνησης μπορούμε να ξεπεράσουμε και να διασφαλίσουμε τη συνέχειά μας μπροστά σε τέτοιου είδους δοκιμασίες και νέες προκλήσεις που έχει η ανθρωπότητα.
We need global governance, global financial governance, and we need it fast.
Την Ελλάδα που δεν πνίγεται στα προβλήματά της, την Ελλάδα που δεν πνίγεται στα προβλήματά της, την Ελλάδα που δεν πνίγεται στα προβλήματά της.
It is a big idea, a new world order. We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
One of the ways it will drive the change is through global governance and global agreements.
A phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
I give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like.
Will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity.
People who have been yelling, oh, the UN's going to take over global
Conspiracy
government.
theorists.
They've been crazy, but now they're right.
The ultimate goal that these people have in mind is the goal to create a one-world government run by the banking industry, run by the bankers, and they're doing it in sections. The European currency, the euro, and the European Constitution is one part of it. Now they're trying to do it in America with the North American Union, right? And they want to create a new currency called the Amero, right? And the whole agenda is to create a one world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is given me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip. And you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of the people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has your purchasing records, what you do, what
everything.
you sell.
Everything is in there, you know? And so they want a one world government controlled by them, everybody being chipped, all your money in those chips, and they control the chips, and they control people. And you become a slave. You become a serf to these people. That's their goal. That's their intentions.
Eric, can you be specific about when you met Rockefeller, how it happened in these discussions?
I met Rockefeller through a female attorney I knew who called me up one day and said, one of the Rockefellers would like to meet you. I had made a video called Mad as Hell, and he'd seen the video and wanted to meet me and knew I was running for governor of Nevada. So sure, I'd love to meet him. And I met him, and I liked him, and he was a very, very smart man. And we used to talk and share ideas and thoughts. And he's the one who told me 11 months before 9/11 ever happened that there was going to be an event. Never told me what the event was going to be, but there was going to be an event. And out of that event, we were going to invade Afghanistan to run pipelines from the Caspian Sea. We were going to invade Iraq, you know, to take over the oil fields, establish a base in the Middle East, and make it all part of the New World Order. And we'd go after Chavez in Venezuela. And sure enough, later 9/11 happened. And I remember he was telling me how how you're going to see soldiers looking in caves for people in Afghanistan and Pakistan and all these places. And there's going to be this war on terror, which is no real enemy. And the whole thing is a giant hoax, you know, but it's a way for the government to take over the American people.
He told you it was going to be a hoax.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no question. He says, there's going to be war on terror. And he's laughing. There's no... Who are we fighting? I mean, why do you think 9/11 happened and then nothing's happened since then? Do you think that our security is so great here that these people who pulled off 9/11, who were able to, can't knock down another plane? Come on, it's ridiculous. 9/11 was done by people in our own government and our own banking system to perpetuate the fear of the American people into subordinating themselves to anything the government wants them to do. That's what it's about, and to create this war, this endless war on terror. And that's why and that was the first lie. And the next lie was going into Iraq, you know, to get Saddam Hussein out with his weapons of mass destruction. That was the next lie.
Now, specifically, this was a little over 6 years ago.
This was
11 months before 9/11.
Yeah.
And Nick Rockefeller, who's a lawyer, he's become your friend over the previous years, and he's saying to you that there's going to be this big event, and then out of that we're going to have a war on terror, and it's just going to go on and on.
Right. An endless war on terror without any real enemy. That you can never, so you can never define a winner.
And did he say that it's going to be perfect because you can't define an enemy? It just goes on and on?
Yeah, because you can't define a winner. There's no one to beat, so it goes on and on forever. And they can do whatever they want. They scared the hell out of the American public. Look, this whole war on terror is a fraud. It's a farce. It's very difficult to say it out loud because people are intimidated against saying it. Because if you say it, they want to make you into a nutcase. But the truth has to come out. That's why I'm doing this interview. The fact of the matter happens to be that the whole war on terror is a fraud. It's a farce. Yeah, there's a war going on in Iraq because we invaded Iraq. And people over there fighting, you know. But the war on terror, that's a joke, you know. And until we discover what really happened on 9/11 and who was responsible for 9/11, because that's where the war on terror emanates from. That's where it comes from. It was 9/11 that allowed this war on terror to begin. And until we get to the bottom root of 9/11, the truth of 9/11, we'll never know about the war on terror.
Aaron, you said that he was, and I think it's important, and I know this about the Rockefellers from Dr. Dennis Cuddy and many others who literally...
Well, what it is remember, we were friends, and we used to come to my house a lot. We'd have dinner, we'd talk, and he'd tell me about business investments, how you get involved in, you know, or they would help me with this business investment or that business investment. And was I interested in joining the Council on Foreign Relations? You know, I would have to get a letter to join them, but was I interested in that? And, you know, just stuff, you know, leading you on. And I used to say to him that I never really did that because that wasn't where I was coming from. You know, as much as I like you, Nick, you know, your ways and my ways we're on the opposite side of the fence. You know, I don't believe in enslaving people, you know, and
he would come back with, oh, I do? Or?
Well, it would be more like, you know...
It's better for them.
Well, it's more like, you know, how do I put it? It was like, what do you care about them? What do you care about those people? What difference does it make to you? Take care of your own life. Do the best you can for you and your family. What do the rest of the people mean to you? They don't mean anything to you. They're just serfs. They're just people. You know, it was just a lack of caring, you know, and that's just not who I was. It was just sort of like cold, you know. It was just like cold, you know. And I used to say to him, what's the point of all this? You have all the money in the world you need. You have all the power you need. What's the point? You know, what's the end goal? And he said the end goal is to get everybody chipped, to control the whole society, to have the bankers, the elite people, you know, the bankers and some governor controlling the world. And I said, all the people in the Council on Foreign Relations believe this way you do? He said, no. You know, most of them believe they're doing the right thing. A lot of them believe it's better off being socialistic. You know, we have to convince people that socialism is really capitalism. Because America's becoming a socialist country. It's a communist country today. Well, one of the things they told me was that he was at the house one night, and we were talking, and he started laughing. He said, Aaron, what do you think women's liberation was about? And I said, I had pretty conventional thinking about it at that point. I said, I think it's about women having the right to work, getting equal pay with men, just like they won the right to vote, you know? And he started to laugh. He said, you're an idiot. And I said, why am I an idiot? He said, let me tell you what that was about. We, the Rockefellers, funded that. We funded women's lib, you know? And we're the ones who got all over the newspapers and television, the Rockefeller Foundation. He says, and you want to know why? He said, there were two primary reasons. And one reason was we couldn't tax half the population before women's lib. And the second reason was, now we get the kids in school at an early age. We can indoctrinate the kids how to think. It breaks up their family. The kids start looking at the state as the family, as the school, as the officials, as their family, not as the parents teaching them. And so those are the two primary reasons for women's lib, which I thought up to that point was a noble thing. You know, when I saw their intentions behind it, where they were coming from when they created it, the thought of it, I saw the evil behind what I thought was a noble adventure.
In 1940, the Council on Foreign Relations in Washington, D.C. decided that that Hitler was going to lose the war and that they should start preparing for the next empire, an American empire. And it was to comprise all of the area that Hitler had coveted, including the United Kingdom, all of North America, New Zealand, Australia, and much of the Southeast Pacific Rim. And they've been working at it ever since. They have linked forces with other organizations since, including the Bilderbergers, a post-war organization in Europe, which is the most secretive and one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful organization in the world today. And then the third, the Trilateral Commission, which was formed after Japan began its ascendancy. And these three have been working together, and I call them in my books the Three Sisters. They are the sort of the root of what I now call cabal, and other people call it the cabal as well. The cabal comprises the banking cartel, the oil cartel, the big transnational corporations, the intelligence agencies, many of them, but including the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, and a couple of foreign ones, the MI6 from the UK and the Mossad from Israel, and a huge slice of the American military. And they are the cabal, and they have been running the United States for the last half century to the point where presidents have been little more than talking heads, and the Congress hasn't had a clue as to what was going on. After World War II, there was an operation called Operation Paperclip, which was approved by President Truman to bring Nazi scientists to the United States to help, presumably, in the Cold War that would ensue. President Truman agreed on the condition that none of the scientists were to have been active members of the Nazi Party. The armed forces who were doing the invitation, the Army in particular, paid no attention to the president. As a former Minister of National Defense, I know how that works. And they recruited the ones they wanted. They gave them new names, new histories, and high-ranking jobs in the United States in the military and civil establishments. They were working on missiles and new weapon systems of various kinds. President Eisenhower vented his frustration in his final speech to the American people at the time he was retiring from public life. He said, "Beware of the military-industrial complex." And the problem is we have paid no attention to him. Well, a lot of water has gone under the bridge since then. This cabal, their end game, is a world government. They're calling it the New World Order, which is unelected and accountable only to them. That's what they're doing. And they're well on the road to do it. And you know, they were smart. They said, we won't do what Hitler did and try to take over all this world, these countries by military means. We will do it by using our brains and using the monetary system to crush the various countries to the point where the people will be glad to accept a military government. And we will use trade agreements, which are not really trade agreements, but which are, in effect, transfers of power from the people, the elected people, to the banking cartel and the transnational corporations. And they put a thing in the trade agreements which is called the dispute settlement mechanism. And it actually works this way, that if any government, like a provincial government in Canada or a state government in the United States, does something that affects the profits or potential profits of a foreign company, they can sue the government of Canada for lost profits or even lost potential profits, can you believe? They have more rights in Canada than Canadian citizens, and of course it works the same way with the United States. It's wrong in principle. Two final words. The reason they don't want us to know what they're doing is because of too many of us knew what they were doing. They might not be able to get away with it. And the reason that you don't read about it is that if you get a copy of Daniel Estulin's most recent book, he was the writer of The True Story of the Bilderberger. There are several pages, chapter and verse, that show that every major news outlet in the English-speaking world is controlled by a Bilderberger.
Well, the issue that is most urgent at the moment is changing the world monetary system, the banking system. And this is a long story, and I know you don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but it is critically important. The banking system that we have is, to put it bluntly, legalized fraud, to put it in bold terms. And we have to change it for the benefit of all. There are many things in my book that you will know from having read it, where I talk about the world being run by a very small group of elite people who are immensely wealthy and who want to stay that way. They want to have the stranglehold on the resources and the wealth of the world. And so they have introduced globalization, which really hasn't benefited anybody except them in a tangible way. And they want to keep a banking system which has brought more than 25 recessions and depressions in the United States in the last 120 years. And now, after one of the most serious meltdowns, well, the most serious meltdown since the Great Depression, they're pretending that they're fixing the system, and they're not. It's just a pretense. And they're pretending to slap the hands of the bankers who are responsible for it, and it is just a tap in the hand. It's like finding a prostitute $20 for being on the street, knowing that she's going to go back out the next night and earn more than that. And the banks are doing exactly the same thing. They're just laughing all the way to their balls. With this new system of capital adequacy, which isn't really adequacy at all, it should be capital inadequacy, they are lending the same money 20 times and collecting interest on it each time. Now that is just legalized fraud. My advice to the young people of the world would be, it has to start with individuals. I used to describe this sort of thing like a beach. If the majority of the grains of sand on the beach are clean, it will look beautiful, golden, and be very hospitable. If the majority are covered with oil slick, dirty, or translated into the wider problem, evil, or uncaring or self-centered, then you have a dirty beach, which is very unattractive. And that is much of what's going on in the world today. But this has to start with individual people, and it has to come from the bottom up, not from the top down, although I must say that, good leadership is very important, and if you can get somebody with high moral and ethical standards at the top, this will rub off on some of the younger people. But basically, the young people have to change the world one at a time, individually, and try to make their motto to leave the world in a little better place than when they found it. And if everyone does that, and then if enough people do that, they will then put the political pressure on the leaders to make the macro changes that are essential to change the monetary system and to do the other things that have to be done to, in effect, save the world.
Όπως καταλαβαίνετε, η πραγματική δύναμη δεν ανήκει στο 1%, αλλά ανήκει στο 99% των ανθρώπων, και αν οι ίδιοι άνθρωποι δεν συνενέσουν σε όλο αυτό, τίποτα και καμία ατζέντα δεν μπορεί να πραγματοποιηθεί. Από το 99% των ανθρώπων εξαρτάται όλο αυτό. Η συνένεση και η συμμετοχή μας λοιπόν σε όλο αυτό είναι που θα φέρει αυτή τη νέα παγκόσμια τάξη. Με άλλα λόγια, εμείς είμαστε που σκάβουμε τον ίδιο μας το λάκκο για να πέσουμε μετά μέσα, με την συνειδητή μας συνένεση, συμμετοχή, υποστήριξη και προώθηση όλων αυτών των ατζεντών και των σχεδίων που έχουν οι παγκοσμιοποιητές. Οδηγούμαστε δηλαδή συνειδητά στην ίδια μας την σκλαβιά. Δεχόμαστε δηλαδή να σκλαβωθούμε στο 1% όταν εμείς έχουμε πραγματικά την δύναμη, καθώς χωρίς την δική μας συνένεση και συμμετοχή τίποτα δεν μπορεί να γίνει. Από εμάς εξαρτάται, αλλά δυστυχώς το μεγαλύτερο ποσοστό από αυτό το 99% των ανθρώπων κοιμάται στην κυριολεξία με ανοιχτά τα μάτια και σαν ζόμπι ακολουθούν πιστά τις οδηγίες και τους νόμους που τους επιβάλλουν οι κυβερνήσεις τους, οδηγώντας και εμάς, τους υπόλοιπους ανθρώπους, στον λάκκο μαζί τους. Και όταν προσπαθούμε, καλή ώρα όπως κάνω εγώ αυτή τη στιγμή, να τους ξυπνήσουμε, μας ονομάζουν συνωμοσιολόγους, μας επιτίθονται, μας απορρίπτουν, μας χλευάζουν και μας λογοκρίνουν. Είναι τραγικό αυτό που συμβαίνει. Οι ίδιοι μας, οι συνάνθρωποι και οι συμπολίτες μας το κάνουν αυτό. Οι παγκοσμιοποιητές είναι υπεύθυνοι τελικά, ή οι ίδιοι μας, οι συμπολίτες και οι συνάνθρωποι μας? Δεν είναι το 1% υπεύθυνο για όλο αυτό που συμβαίνει, που πάντα συνέβαινε και που θα συμβεί στο μέλλον. Δυστυχώς. Αλλά η συνειδητή επιλογή των κοιμισμένων να συνενούν σε όλο αυτό, οδηγώντας και εμάς, τους υπόλοιπους, στην σκλαβιά μαζί τους. Αφού πρώτα μας καταδικάσουν ως συνωμοσιολόγους, κακούς, χαζούς, ψεύτικους, τρομοκράτες, απατεώνες και ένα σωρό άλλους χαρακτηρισμούς. Κανείς δεν μπορεί να σου στερήσει την προσωπική σου ελευθερία και την προσωπική σου ελεύθερη επιλογή, η οποία είναι δοσμένη από τον Θεό. Είναι ένα θείο δώρο που κανένας άνθρωπος δεν μπορεί να σου στερήσει και δεν έχει την εξουσία πάνω σε αυτό για να το αλλάξει. Είναι ένα δώρο, ένα θείο δώρο δοσμένο από το Θεό της αγάπης, και χωρίς ελευθερία δεν υπάρχει αγάπη. Μπορούν να σου στερήσουν τα πάντα, αλλά όχι αυτό, γιατί αυτό είναι ένα θείο δώρο. Και εκεί ακριβώς βρίσκεται η απόλυτη ελευθερία. Η ελευθερία της ελεύθερης βούλησης και το δικαίωμα της ελεύθερης προσωπικής επιλογής. Κανένας άνθρωπος, καμία κυβέρνηση και καμία οργάνωση δεν μπορεί να σου στερήσει αυτό. Οπότε βλέπουμε ότι από εμάς εξαρτάται και η ευθύνη βαραίνει εμάς τους ίδιους. Είμαστε υπεύθυνοι των πράξεών μας, των επιλογών μας και των λεγόμενών μας. Ό,τι σπείρει ο καθένας θα θερήσει. Σπαίνουμε με τα λόγια μας, Σπέρνουμε με τα χέρια μας, σπέρνουμε με την ψυχή μας ακόμα και θερίζουμε πάντα αναλόγως. Ας αναλάβουμε λοιπόν όλοι τις ευθύνες μας και ας εκμεταλλευτούμε τα θεία δώρα που έχουμε λάβει και ας ακολουθήσουμε το δρόμο της ελευθερίας που έστρωσε ο ίδιος ο Θεός για εμάς. Ή ας ακολουθήσουμε το δρόμο της σκλαβιάς, της καταστροφής και του θανάτου που στρώνουν όλοι αυτοί που έχουμε φτάσει στο σημείο να τους αποκαλούμε ακόμα και θεούς, ήρωες και παντογνώστες, θερίζοντας μαζί τους την καταστροφή, τον θάνατο και τελικά την απώλεια.